Hello folks, and welcome to Tippcast with myself, Shane Stapleton, as always joined by Head of Sport in Nenagh Guardian, Shane Brophy, and Anthony Shelley also joins us here. So we're going to be previewing the hurling, the football, we're going to be talking Camogie. There's plenty coming on today's show. Shane, how are things with you?
Good now, good.
Yeah.
All well, lads.
It's busy stuff at the moment, Anthony.
Yeah, it's busy, particularly for the Joe Club. You're at it every week, and you're switching from one mode to the other nearly every Sunday night.
Right, yeah, and you
the season isn't over, like, so some might should lead us to believe, like, so.
Sorry?
Shane reckons the season isn't over in terms of like just because the county season is gone.
Oh God, no.
Yeah.
For some of us, it's only beginning.
Yeah, absolutely. Shane, like in terms of the football championship, you know, it never gets the same amount of coverage as the hurling, of course, in Tipperary. But just the start of the Tipperary football championship, what have you made of it?
Underwhelming. Probably what we feared with the fact there's no relegation this year. I suppose brought about by the fact that Drom opted out and there had to be a change in the format. Look, we've had a couple of walkovers already between the two grades. Like it's not. Look, it's not ideal. It's always going to be the poor relation. Like, but God, when you have clubs who are rightly senior clubs, but they're a lack of interest really, and stuff like that. That'll be my worry. Like, so the thing is, what do you do to change it? I don't think there'll be any appetite to go down the Waterford route of playing the hurling off in about 8 weeks and then go and play. But that's probably exactly what's needed for football to thrive, because football probably needs a time to itself where clubs might think, okay, our hurling won't suffer, like, but I'm not sure clubs would want to have like Waterford or Carlow or would want to have the hurling over in a blitz format essentially. So look, you just hope maybe things as we get closer to the knockout stages, maybe they settle down a bit and maybe get back to next year where there's a bit of there's relegation comes back. And it's like when the good teams play each other, there are good matches, like we saw last week. Or commercials in Loughmore, terrific game. Arravale, Ballyporeen, two even teams, very high scoring games. Brackens and Ardfinnan. Okay, Brackens are probably comfortable enough, but 2-12 to 111, good, decent game. But like, the walkovers for me are, I suppose they take the edge off it.
Anthony, could you give it more of a positive look?
No, it's been hugely underwhelming start to the championship, and I think when this season's over, a lot of the stakeholders are going to have to sit down and it's not going to be done over 1 or 2 meetings. There's a lot of work to be done there to see how we can revamp the interest in football. We have an under-19 mid-football match tonight, right? I was looking at it there yesterday. This is round 4. We've received 3 walkovers, so this is our first game, even though we're in round 4. But so I had a quick look at the under-19 championship yesterday between the under-19A and under-19B, 2 of them together. Tonight will be the 21st game in the mid under-19 championship between the two groups. There's been 15 walkovers. So only 6 games out of 21. Tonight will be the 6th game out of 21 played. Now there's a lot of factors into there, like the timing of this championship in the middle of a senior championship. Nearly everybody on an under-19 team has another team, whether it be minor, junior B, senior, whatever. Like, so you're dependent on other managers to get this. So, but also, I mean, there does seem to be, for a lot of clubs, there seems to be a complete apathy towards football at the moment in the county, and even the senior teams. You can nearly split them into 3 groups. You have a group of teams there that really don't give a fiddlers, like, and they're in the senior championship. They don't give a fiddlers about the senior football championship. Then you have a group in the middle that probably do give a fiddlers, but don't feel that they're good enough to go and win it, and then you have maybe 2 or 3 teams that actually genuinely believe they can go on and win a championship. So there is a lot of work to be done. I don't think the split season is the answer. While yes, well, one, you were never going to get the hurling clubs to play the hurling championship off in 7 or 8 weeks, and why would they? The Tipperary hurling championship is the great show in town at the moment. But other than that, while you might get more teams playing football, if it was played after the hurling, I don't think starting the football championship in the end of September, October, all the way through, I don't think football would thrive for that. And it's right, the quantity might be greater, but the quality would certainly go down.
And Anthony,
I just thought like the penny for the thoughts of, I say, Killinall giving the walkover, like Jimmy Feehan and Paddy Feehan, probably 2 lads that would fight on their backs for Tipperary. And I was thinking, geez, they love football. Like what would they feel when their club decides not to field against my Rovers last week? I'm sure, like, not everybody within a club that gets agrees to give a walkover would agree with the decision to do it. Like, so I always find it an interest in how look, they'll always be outvoted, but I'm sure it probably sticks in their craw a small bit.
I'm sure it does, but and I was surprised at Killinall, because over the years they've always fielded and always put an effort in, and I think was it 2017 or 17, I think they were actually in a county final, and they've always produced good footballers there, and they've always fielded, right? They mightn't field on the date that they were supposed to field. They might go to the boardroom to get the date changed or whatever, like, but they're a proud jewel club, and the reason they didn't field this year or last week is because of the no relegation. And they have an important hurling game this weekend that they need to win. And if there was relegation, you could have Killinall would have put a team in the field last week, but they had to look after the best interests of their club. While six in the craw a little bit, you can't blame the club for doing it when there's no real punishment for doing it.
Yeah. Anthony, just in terms of the teams that are vying for the championship this year, like Clonmel had a draw with Loughmore the other day. Peter McGarry with a late point. Brackens, we've already mentioned, beat Ardfinn. Like, is there anyone else outside of that pack that can challenge or hope to even put a game, put it up to some of these key teams?
Yeah, I think the 2 teams that played last Friday night are and you could see it by the quality of the game and the way both teams went at it. They're the 2 favourites, and I think then you have my Rovers seem to be flying at the moment. All right, beneficiaries of a walkover last weekend, but their early season form in the South Championship and the Football League would be good. So you'd have to put them into 3rd place there, and then it's ourselves and Upperchurch after that. It's not going to come from anybody other than those 5 teams. But at this stage, you'd have to say it's between the old reliables, Loughmore and Clonmel Commercials.
And who've been the standout players that you've seen so far in the championship?
Well, I thought John McGrath, Liam McGrath were really, really good last Friday night in where were we? Clonalty. And you might have seen the WhatsApp video going around there after the weekend of David Clifford's pass from on the ground. Liam McGrath's pass in Clonalty on Friday night to John McGrath for the penalty that led to them getting the penalty for their second goal, I think it was twice as good. Like, so, the two McGraths. Jack Kennedy from Commercials was very, very good. I didn't see the Kilsheelan game at the weekend, but I heard reports back that Mark Kehoe was outstanding. But for J.K. Brackens, the one that I've seen the most of, Paddy Cadell and Éanna McBride have been the standout players.
Shane?
Yeah, no, like, I suppose, well, we don't have a senior manager yet, I suppose. We all know that it's going to be Philly, and I'm sure Philly is looking around there at the moment. And yeah, like, I suppose we're all looking at in terms of who could he be potentially looking to draft in. And I'd say there's probably going to be, we probably haven't seen an awful lot in terms of what we didn't know already. There'll probably be a lot of the core, maybe some of the under 20s maybe that have come over age and from last year. But yeah, sure. Look, apart from commercials at Mile Rovers, Brackens, and Loughmore, I suppose they're still the they're still the top four. But just the one interesting thing about the way the format is, we're probably going to get one, maybe two big quarterfinals because of the way 4 teams come out of one and 2 comes out of another. Like, so you could get Bracken's reward for winning a group could end up being playing Mile Rovers or somebody like that in a quarterfinal. Like, so I suppose that's when probably the real tea to the stuff will start. And I do think, look, I personally was in favour of reducing the numbers from 16 to 12. As look, it just would just increase the competitiveness. Like, and if we got at least if we got a senior championship where you had the majority of the teams in it caring and being committed to it, you say great. Like, if we're 16, it's a bit wishy-washy with some of them at the moment. Like you saw last weekend at Intermediate and the late postponement of or cancellation of my Mullinahone and my Carkey. It was a case of who blinked first in terms of giving the walkover. You knew both of them didn't want to play it because they're playing each other in the hurling this weekend, and it looked like my Carkey blinked first in the end, and they get targeted with the walkover. Like, so, yeah, I suppose. Look, we have some couple of games in round 3 that'll be big. It was Ballina and Upper Church will be one. Like the margins in that group of care are so fine with score difference. Like, and so security is enough that they play in the hurling straight knockout nearly group game next weekend as well. So be interesting to see if there's much of a carryover. And I suppose Ballina haven't been at full strength with injuries and stuff, and whether they will have big key bodies back. But then you go back looking to last week, Upper Church won with a couple of key players not featuring as well. So that was a big win for them, and it shows you how deep their panel is.
Yeah, Anthony, just going to the Brackens victory over Ardfinnan 212 to 111, and then also in the same group, Kilsheelan beating Grange Mokler by 6 points, and the 3 Lyons brothers are in New York, so didn't feature for the latter there. Can you just talk to us about that group and those results?
Yeah, it's I think Brackens have won 2, but there's no guarantee of going through. Like, I mean, it's really the Grange Mokler are more or less gone, and their scores won't count if the other 3 teams. You would imagine that Ardfinnan will have too much for Grange Mokler, as you said, particularly with the Lyons brothers gone. So, Brackens and Kilsheelan historically, there's very, very little between them, and I would expect the same. So you have a real possibility of 3 teams finishing on 4 points and it going to score difference. Now, as far as I know at the moment, Brackens are +4 after last weekend, and Ardfinnan are -4, because I presume it's just going to be the score difference between the 3 teams, the results between the 3 teams involved. So it does give Brackens a small bit of a cushion, barring disaster against Kilsheelan. But yeah, that I would be hoping that Brackens, the Brackens will come through anyway, and it really is down to the result of the game. If we win, it's Brackens and Ardfinnan, but if we lose, it's down to score difference. I think the real tide around is in Group 2, the game that Upper Church and Ballina, like a 2-point win there for Ballina, I think makes that group extremely tight. They could all actually, but to be all on 0 or +1 if that was the result. It's that tight a margin, and that would put Ballina and Care through. Would that be right, Shane? And yeah, but even a 1-point win, a one point win for Upper Church will put Upper Church in, or even a draw for Upper Church will put Upper Church and Care through. So that's a really, really tight group, and the other group I think is more or less decided at the moment. I'd say the top 4 will probably go through.
Yeah, Shane, would you see it that way?
Yeah, no, it's fairly well done and dusty. I suppose I think it was encouraging to see Arvale get a win. Like, I just think they're probably going to maybe struggle to get out of the group in intermediate hurling. So, and like, I just think that the pickup of, like, they've always been a traditionally good, strong senior football club, and I think they've they lost their maybe edge of the last few years, but they're starting to build again. I thought an interesting one was Oren, the transfer of Oren Jones over the winter, and he's I think he's a classy footballer, a real sweet player. But like, it wasn't all down to him now last weekend against Ballyporeen, and like that was an experienced Ballyporeen to beat. Like, so like that's notable for Arville, and like they can really go after. I think they play Loughmore next, don't they?
Yeah.
Yeah, like that's they'll see that as okay, they're probably going to qualify, but they can have a really good go at that now and see if they can kick on a bit further.
Yeah, it will be interesting to see will Loughmore rest a few players that weekend. They're already through, so
yeah.
You know, like I mean, they went full bore last Friday night with their team selection.
I think they're knocked out of the intermediate, the Premier Junior Football Loughmore. I think they've 2 losses. So
yeah, so
nor had they. Maybe they don't, but
a few more players
would make it easier for them if they were.
Yeah, because they play a hard game in football. Like there's a lot of running in it. They put it through the hands, and it's a really, really hard game that they play. And you could see like they were 6 points up with 13 or 14 minutes to go the other night. And I'm not sure. Like Commercials brought on a few of the big guns, but you could see the Loughmore were flagging because it's just not possible, no matter how fit you are, and they are very fit this year. To stay, making those 80-yard runs for 60 minutes.
Anthony, is there any chance that the absence of Seamus Kennedy with the Cruciate this year could catch up with Clonmel?
Well, yeah, I think Seamus Kennedy and James Morris is also a big loss for him as well with the Cruciate. So I think it makes him vulnerable, but I suppose realistically, with the depth of the squad that they have, and you can see that Jason Lonergan came on the other night. He's back from America now. So he'll be a big plus for him later on in the year when he gets a bit of training done. But it makes them vulnerable, Shane, but it probably only makes them vulnerable in the group stages, quarterfinal, semi-final. They're going to be very, very hard to beat if they get to Semple Stadium. But I do see them vulnerable in a quarterfinal in Cashel or on a rainy day or something like that. They certainly are vulnerable. But I think if they do get to Semple Stadium with the quality they have and with the type of game they play, they would be very hard to beat. But up until that, they are vulnerable.
Yeah, and like we already mentioned, Kilsheelan and Kilcash beating Grange Moncler, Ballyneal. Like, how good are Kilsheelan this year?
Well, they would have been very disappointed. Now, I know they were down a few bodies, but they would have been very disappointed to lose the first round to Arfinnan, and I mean that was a surprise to an awful lot of people. But they seem to have got back on the horse fairly well. They have a few players back now as well that they didn't have for the first round. Mark Keogh obviously being one of them. They're always good. I always think with Kilsheelan that when we were talking about the top 4 there earlier on, we should be mentioning their names with the talent they have. But I just think sometimes they get in their own way a little bit, and when they play the Commercials and the Loughmores, they go away from what they do well, which is good attacking football, and they overthink it and go very defensive, and it doesn't suit them. So if they can stay out of their own way, they're certainly a team to be watched.
I think the interesting thing for me would be if they go out of the hurling this weekend, like they play Borris and a do or die game. I think Mark Keogh is suspended. If they go out and they have only football to go after, that's probably when we'll see Kilsheelan at their best. Like when they have we know how deep that football squad is. Like when they have their sole focus on it, I think they'll be dangerous. Like that their hardest game is Bracken's, their last one to come, but it's not by any means. Like if they're focused on that, and maybe Bracken's have one eye, and maybe they're already. I would say their score difference is probably strong enough to qualify anyway, even with a defeat. But maybe if the way Brackens are going, trying to fight in 2 fronts, that they might have. You might have to maybe take the edge off maybe 1 week in terms of keeping lads fresh for battles down the line that could open the door for Kilsheelan.
Yeah, that's it. And I mean, if we approach it in the mindset that we're safe, and you'd be hoping that we would. You'd be hoping that even if we don't win the game, that we wouldn't lose by 7 points. But it's that 1 or 2% of a drop in mindset could make us vulnerable. Like so, and as you say, if they're out of the hurling, they will be coming with 100% focus. So yeah, it'll be an interesting game.
Okay, well, we might turn our attention to the hurling now, Shane, if you're happy to move on.
Yeah, no, I'm just going to get, we're still on football, Anthony's thoughts on Mickey Hart moving to Offaly.
It's out of the blue, wasn't it?
Yeah, nice pickup. I know it sort of got a mixed reaction, but like the man loves football, and like he's not doing it for ego reasons. Like I'd say he'd be lost without the game, and like he's in his 70s. I'd say he's well retired at this stage. He can probably afford to get in the car at 3:00 in the afternoon and head for Loughmore and drive back late into the night. But like even listening to, I think it was Nigel Dunn on News Talk a few nights, like you can already feel the reinvigoration within him. And like if if that galvanizes Offaly and gets the best players even to commit for 1 year, it might just kickstart the whole thing. Look what he did with Louth. Like his arrival is sort of, it got there. It's after getting them to a level where they're playing comfortably with the top teams, maybe not beating them, but competing well with them.
Yeah, and that in itself shows that, right, he might be in his early 70s yet, but he's not finished. The Louth project he did great work there, and like Derry, he's did great work. Derry at the start, right, it turned sour, but Derry probably a difficult place to manage anyway, particularly for an outsider. So he's not finished, and I think it's a great appointment. Great appointment. It's out of the blue. The joint manager bit is a little bit surprising, but
I do wonder about
that he approached him, and there was no vacancy when he was approached, but they created a position for him.
I just wonder, is that a way to maybe take the heat off him, and that, the way he doesn't do a lot of media stuff, particularly with RT, that, okay, Declan Kelly will look after that. Maybe he'll be the front man, and like while Mickey's joint manager, really, I suppose he will be the main man, like, but Declan will probably take a lot of maybe the front and center questions and stuff like that.
Yeah, possibly. But if you would have thought, it might be interesting to see what was going on in the background, because Declan was probably under a little bit of pressure at the end of last year. I mean, the results certainly weren't good enough, and it would seem that they had stopped playing for him. So, but I think maybe Michael Dignan sat down and said, right, I can fix this problem without causing too much hassle, because Declan obviously would have had support within that panel as well, and within the county board.
Okay, well, Anthony, I'd love to ask you about Jacob Brackens against Kildangan this weekend, because like Brackens, they're already through to the knockout stages on 4 points. Kildangan 3, Clonoulty Rossmore on 1, Templeterry are on 0. So Brackens against Kildangan. I mean, Kildangan have an unlikely scenario where they might not get through if they lose and there's a 14-point turnaround. Well, maybe even more. But your thoughts on the match this weekend, because it is the two teams that have been flying in this group.
Yeah, and I suppose it'll really show us where we are. But historically we've always performed well against Kildangan. I think we might have had 2 draws with them there recently in the last couple of years, and it just seems that because Kildangan stick to their process. From what I can see, no matter who they play, they still play the way that they play, and they do struggle to cope with our running game, and it has caused them problems in the past. But it will be interesting. You still have to say county champions. Kildangan will be favourites, but it will probably give you a better idea of where J.K. Bracken's at. There's probably a lot of buzz around them after the high scoring of the last 2 games, and a lot of people probably talking about them as being contenders, which would be the first time in our history that ever happened. There it would be, if we were to win it or draw it, be the first time in our history that we ever topped a group in the stage. I mean, we were in relegation last year, and you always have to be mindful of that. So I think this game will probably tell you more about Jacob Brackens than it will about Kildangan. If they barring, as you said, is it a 14-point turnaround in the other game?
Yeah.
19.
Barring some crazy result over there, you see 2 teams going through.
Shane, I'll bring you in a second, but just before we let you go, Anthony, and we've Noel Dundon ready to come on as well. The other game, you've seen both Clonoulty, Rossmore and Tipperary Kens. It's a straight shootout, really, to see who goes into relegation. What would your thoughts be on that?
Well, from the games I've seen in that, and I would think that Clonoulty will come out on top there. Not by the amount that they need to come out on top, but they will come out on top, and it'll be Tipperary going into the relegation. That would be my thoughts on it.
Okay, well, look, Anthony, really appreciate that.
Cheers, Anthony.
Chat again to you
Okay,
soon.
see you, lads.
Okay, delighted to say we've Noel Dundon on the show now. Noel, how are things?
Good morning, lads. How are you?
Good, Noel. How are you?
Good, thanks.
We're just starting off with the hurling there, and the permutations this weekend, I think it's something like 14 of the 16 teams have something to play for. So, whoever thought in the past maybe we don't need to change the championship structure and all that, Noel, it is producing serious excitement, and there's such an evenness across the championship.
Yeah, sure. Look, I suppose, all credit to the county board, because they did take a lot of flack when these decisions were being made and introducing the Premier Intermediate grade as well. But in fairness, like with, as you said, Shane, with the games that are there, there's something to play for in practically every game, and you couldn't look for better. Like going into the last round, we Shane Brophy there, myself and yourself, Shane, we would have been covering games in times past which were dead rubbers, and there's nobody wants those kind of games. The clubs themselves don't want them either, to be frank about it. But there's no dead rubbers there this weekend, and that's brilliant to be looking forward to.
Shane,
yeah, no, that's for sure. Like, and plus you were going to some games when you had that low to 25-20 team championship where you knew the result before you arrived. Like, there was just such a chasm between them. But you don't foresee really too many one-sided games. Okay, well, maybe on ship to beaten, but beforehand you wouldn't have foreseen maybe that kind of a score happening. But sometimes games go that way, and you just try and wash it off and move on again. I think the Thurles Stars Ross Gray game is the only game that has nothing riding on it this weekend. So, but still, you'll probably get the good core of Sarsfields and Ross Gray supporters in Templemore, because Ross Gray will be looking to just find some bit of momentum to go into relegation with, and Sarsfields have found a bit of momentum lately, but they won't want to drop off either. Like, so, yeah, I think that game on Sunday, but I'd say the other 5 games in around that time on Sunday afternoon, I'd say if the weather is good, they'll all get good crowds. Okay,
well, look, there's obviously 4 big groups going on this weekend, but we'd touched on Group 4 already, Killadangan, Brackens, Clonoulty against Tipperary. No, just to throw it to you, Killadangan, I mean, they have a serious array of forwards. But then the other side, Brackens have Andrew Ormond, Jamie Ormonds and Preston Linden, Fairbrother. There's a lot of talent there. And as Anthony Shelley had mentioned, they seem to generally do well against Killadangan. So what are you expecting here?
Yeah, I'm expecting Brackens have a real go at them, Shane, to be honest with you. I've seen them a couple of times this year now, and they've really impressed me. Probably the mid-semi-final against McCarthy Borris was a bit of an aberration for them. They were kind of bullied around the field in a physical sense, that they didn't have the kind of physical presence maybe that McCarthy Borris brought to the game. But aside from that game, they've been really, really impressive. They have huge pace in their forward line, and all of their forwards are able to score. And I think that they've some... they've a kind of a combination there that will trouble a lot of teams. So I think it's a big test of Killadangan now on Sunday, to be honest. And I think, if I'm right, Brackens have the incentive too of, if they win, they're straight through to a quarter final, so they won't have to go the preliminary route. And when they're playing on 2 fronts with the football as well, the least number of games that they can play, the better. It would be the same with Loughmore Castellani,
Shane, what do you think? How do you think this game will go?
Yeah, no, this is a fascinating one for me, because Brackens, Killadangan are able to play most teams, but definitely Brackens have given them problems. I think it was a couple of years ago they drew in the stadium. I think it might be in the first COVID year, and I think the year after the draw in Nenagh, I think it was the night Shane Doyle got 3 or 4 sideline cuts. So he, I suppose Killadangan will be wary of giving away any sideline cuts in Dala on Sunday. But yeah, it's a free swing for Brackens. Like I said, they're qualified. You think the only 2 clubs that would set up a preliminary quarter final would be Loughmore and Killadangan, and I probably think they're going to qualify anyway. Bar a complete set of shocks. I wouldn't rule it out, but they mightn't be required. So that's I think And plus, Killadangan's defence has been leaky. Like, you fought 420 against Clonoulty, 217 against Templederry. Okay, we know the strength of the Templederry team is their attack. Like, they scored 320 in the lost to Bracken. So, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if I don't think Killadangan will have seen the team that plays with the speed and use of the ball at Brackens. And I think this will be a real step up for Killadangan. But in fairness to Killadangan, they've seen off every match, every threat they've had this year, even if it was only a draw. If Sean Hayes is back, that'll be a boost for Killadangan. Dan O'Mara is back from abroad. He played for the Junior A's last week. But they might hold him out for one more week and get a Junior A North final out of the way before they bring him back to the seniors, possibly. But I wouldn't be surprised if Brackens won this one. And I'd say maybe Killadangan will be going out to win, but if they suffered a loss at this sheet, a narrow loss, it might just take the focus off a bit if they stay unbeaten and stuff. You know, unbeaten runs they start to build a small bit of pressure. So I'd say if Killadangan lost narrowly and still qualified, I don't think they would lose too much sleep over. So I'd give Brackens a great chance on Sunday.
Yeah, well, like in recent games, like it's been a tough run for Templederry. I think it was the North semi-final against Killadangan. Then we had Anthony Shelley on previously, and he was talking about how they sat off Brackens in terms of the puckouts. I think it was something like they had 35 puckouts, and Brackens were able to win 33. So, you know, they were sitting off them a little bit. The last day they didn't have Adrian Ryan and Brian Stapleton, and, you know, it was a heavy loss to Killadangan. So what can Templederry find here to try and upset Clonoulty, Noel? And also, like, Clonoulty, they had a great chance against Killadangan. They were miles ahead the first day out. It seems like not getting over the line there has derailed their season, and, you know, they're obviously just hoping to avoid a relegation playoff at this stage.
Yeah, that was a big slip up on Clonoulty's part against Killadangan, because they had him on the rack, and in fairness, Killadangan came back and got the scores that they got to force the draw. But I mean, in any man's language, when you're 8 points, I think it was in front going into injury time, and to lose the game or to not win the game, you know, you have to be asking questions. As far as the game against Templederry, I'm not sure that Templederry will upset them. I think Clonoulty will be going into very focused. And Clonoulty are probably the better team, to be fair about it, but they have a habit of conceding goals, and when you've a guy like Sean Ryan around, knocking around the place there, it could well be an outlet for Templederry. I mean, he's always the outlet for Templederry, let's face it. In the forward line, he's always the main outlet for them. But I think what we'd have to see is a lot going right for Templederry and a lot going wrong for Clonoulty in order for there to be a surprise, if you want to call it that, in that game.
I think Templederry are very dangerous in this game, because remember last year they went into the last round, they were bottom of the table, and they weren't given much of a chance against Holy Cross, and they went into Borris and they beat them, and they got out of relegation and score difference. And like, they only need a straight win in this game to get out of relegation. And I suppose the key for Templederry is, can they bring a bit of physicality to slow down the Clonoulty? We know Templederry can score. Like, we know, like, they still score 217 even and lose to Killadangan, but they've conceded 626 and 431 and 2. Like, if I don't know whether they sacrifice a forward and play a sweeper or something, they've got to do something in defence. Either they get physical or they play an extra man back. But like, the way I see a lot of teams who play, and it can maybe play only two inside forwards and maybe concede the puck out, teams are so well drilled now that if you give them a free short puck out, they're so very, very good at working the ball up the field and finding men in space. So I think Clonoulty, I think, are favourites. I wouldn't rule out maybe if Clonoulty got in a situation where they got in a big lead and maybe Killadangan only. I think we've seen some of the scores that we put up. Like, I think it's a 13-point turnaround. Like, if all it takes is a 3-point loss for Killadangan and maybe a 10 or 11-point win for Clonoulty, and bang, you have your turnaround and score difference. Like, if that's the worked out. So, like, I think Clonoulty, I suppose, they'll be chasing the win first, and if they get in a position where they have to chase scores, they'll go for it.
Okay, we'll move on to Group 1 then, Noel. So everything's to play for here. All four teams, Killarwan, Borris, Toomevara and Drummond, they can all get through. Killerwan can't finish bottom. That's the only thing. But if Toomevara were to beat Killerwan and Borris were to beat Drom, Killerwan could lose out on score difference. Borris against Drom is obviously neighbours colliding, so they'll both know each other unbelievably well. So even if Drom haven't, shot the lights out so far, they'll know Borris so well that this will be a puck of a ball. But like, in terms of both of these games, Toom against Killerwan, so it's a very tasty group and very finely poised.
Absolutely, yeah. Toom and Killerwan, I mean, last game of the round robin, what more would you want, particularly when they all have something to play for, like. Toomevara early on in the year looked really, really good. And I think that even last year you could see that they were coming, that they were a coming team, and they have developed again this year. They've come on a little bit. So I like, it's very, very difficult to call that game between Toom and Killerwan. Killerwan had a was it the North Championship? I think they lost out to Templederry in the North semi-final, I think, a quarter-final was it. And, I kind of feared for them at that stage, but they've bounced back quite well, and really got their act together. So I think, geez, calling that game is a tough one now. Maybe Toomevara would shade it, maybe they would, but a lot depends on their big players and how they will fare. It's anytime you have two teams in the same division colliding, it's going to be a helter-skelter. And even though Borris and Drom are in different divisions, the fact that they're next door neighbours, it always makes it like as though they're from the same division, So that game too, like anything can happen there. Borris have been disappointing, Shane, I would say, to be fair. I thought that there would be more from them this year, and it has taken them a while to kind of find their groove or find their momentum a little bit. They found it hard to gain momentum. I saw them against Holy Cross in the early stages of the county league, and it was a tough game. Borris came out on top and on a dirty, wet Sunday morning, but I thought they were moving nicely, but they haven't really pushed on. They've lost the games by kind of narrow enough margins and that, which means that they've been in the shake-up in all of them. But they really need to push on in this one now, and the same with Drom. Drom lost out to Upperchurch in the county league final. Again, a game that you thought that they were going to move on and win. They lost Seamus Cannon in that game through injury. He had to leave the field early. Now, that went extra time too, which probably didn't help them. But again, I kind of felt that Drom would have pushed on as well, but they haven't really. So you have two teams here with a hell of a lot of potential, but two teams that are finding it hard to get into their groove a little bit. So, again, that's all to play for.
Shane, I look at Borris and I think, the depth probably isn't there anymore. So when you're missing the likes of James Devaney the last day and you're sort of rejigging your pieces, putting, backs into the forwards, and they are having to rejig an awful lot to try and get the best out of the team. James Devaney will be back this day. But both games, Borris had good first halves. They've had the lead, held on against Toom, couldn't hold on against Killerwan. And now they've got to think, how do we rejig our pieces here now? Because you can put Devaney back into the forwards. Do you do something like think, okay, we're going to try and target Seamus Callan, maybe put Brendan Maher or Dan McCormick on him, Tommy Nolan as well, try and nail him down. How would you go about it if you're Borris here, and how would you try and expose Borris if you were Drom?
I think for Borris, I would have thought at this stage, Kevin Maher and James Devaney would really be driving the thing on, they're 23, 24 years of age, and they haven't really done it. Eddie Ryan's probably not having the year that probably he had last year. He's one I'd love to see maybe in a Tipp maybe development squad. Just he's a lovely hurler. He maybe might lack a small bit of size, because I think if you got him big and strong, and he's very, very elusive, and he's very he's very accurate when he gets a shot on goal. I suppose, I think this is a fascinating one for me, because you think there's an awful lot of pressure on Drom, because when they decided earlier in the year to opt out of football, they created an arrow for their back, was more or less said, we're all in on hurling. Now they're sort of on a 4-game losing streak. If you include the league final, they've lost in the mid to Loughmore, and now they've lost to Toomevara and Killerwan. So, they have, and if they don't win at the weekend, they're in relegation. I don't think Drom would have ever seen themselves at the start of the year being involved in relegation. I thought they were very disappointing against Tumivara. They only lost by 5. I never really thought they were in the game. And like you look at the talent they have from Owen Collins right through up to full forward and Tommy Nolan and David Collins. You think yourself like this is a team that should already be qualified in my eyes. Looking at the players they have, and I don't know. Be interesting to see like if they go back to basic. They're just hurl at a bit more tempo, a bit more cut, and like because we know Borris Lee are going to bring that. Like Borris Lee can get down and dirty and bring the bit of dog, and I think that's all it's going to come down to at the weekend. Like whoever can bring that bit of extra dog will probably win it. And if you're settling on that, I would probably edge it towards Borris Lee, and then the other one like Toom and Killer One, like the great neighbours, great traditional rivals. I'd be edging on Tumivara's side here. I think Sean McAdams going back to Australia, he's a big loss for Killer One. Like I thought his return for those couple of games, he didn't play in the North, but he played in the 2 games in the county. And when he was back in 2022, when he was there, like when he's around, he just offers them that bit of creativity and a bit of speed around the middle of the field, and that could be a loss. But then Killer One it's gas the way they've sort of gone back to basics in the last 2 games. Direct ball into the full forward line. It's a simple game and it's worked for them. They've got 2 wins out of it, like hitting a long ball into the square, and like it broke Drom an inch down in round 1, and it eventually got the better of Borris Lee. And like they probably should have won that game by a small bit more. Like Willie Cleary missed a couple of frees that night that he'd ordinarily get, but in fairness to him, he nailed the one on the sideline, which won them the game in injury time. So I just think maybe Toom's greater scoring potential might just edge it their way.
Yeah. So no, like you have a chance to put your neighbour into relegation. I mean, it's tantalising, these 2 games. How do you think it'll fare? Okay.
Yeah. Do you know, it just struck me there too, like that the venue of the Drom Borris Lee game could be crucial in that Holy Cross is a tighter pitch, and I would think that possibly Drom would have liked it to have been in a wider pitch maybe. Drom are on a bit of a downer at the moment with the run that they've been on. Maybe Borris Lee would just edge that game, particularly in Holy Cross. I think Holy Cross might just suit Borris Lee a little bit more. So I'd be nearly kind of edging towards Borris Lee. They'll be looking for a little bit of divine inspiration on the sideline as well, maybe with Father Vincent there as a selector. But I'd possibly be edging towards Borris Lee for that game.
Yeah, I'm not sure Vinny gets any favours from God when it comes to hurling. We can hope. Moving on to Group 2 then. Thurles Sarsfields will meet Roscrea, and Thurles are top, Roscrea are bottom. Then the other game, Mullinahone against McCarthy Borris. That's a straight shootout to see who goes through. So Shane, just in terms of this group, Thurles against Roscrea, anyway, to start off with, feels like it's only going to go one way.
Probably, yeah, but I suppose look for Roscrea, this is the start of their battle to stay up. Like I think they really need a performance just to take into that relegation semi-final. Looking to be difficult, there's no doubt about it. But it's like Thurles will be at full strength. Look, I suppose assuming maybe Thurles' second team qualify for the knockout stages, they're not going to rob players off that squad at this stage. I said they've already used the guts of 2021 at senior level already. So, and plus, Thurles didn't have a good year up until they beat Mullinahone in the first round. They'd lost all their league games. They'd lost in the first round in the mid. So, like Pádraig Maher won't want to let the hammer up at all. Like I suppose once he now has them focused and a bit of confidence, like he'll be driving it on. So, but like it'd be interesting to see whether will Roscrea change things up, maybe ahead of relegation, maybe start playing a small bit more direct. Will they change their style of play? But just moving to the other one, like this is fascinating. Mike Mullinahone, Mike Carkey, straight shout. It's effectively a knockout game, and I suppose Mike Carkey's bubble was well and truly burst has been twice this year by Loughmore and Thurles Sarsfields. Like they've seen that they still have some way to go, but when they turned it on against Roscrea, they were very, very good, very slick. But Mullinahone, I think, have been more consistent. And I think Mikey O'Shea and Conor Whelan are due back from America, and they're available for the first time this year. And I think they're whether they start or come off the bench, I think the arrival of those two back could sway Mullinahone's direction.
Yeah, Noel, actually, just before you give your thoughts on those games, while we're mentioning Thurles, Ewan Murray being named the minor player of the year. No real shock there, but Tipperary well represented on that team.
Yeah, I suppose, as you say, no real shock in the selection of Ewan as the minor hurler of the year. A huge honour for him and for his family, and for Douglas Og, I suppose, and for Nassar Shaley Gog as well. Like, a huge thing to have their talisman named as the minor hurler of the year. But I was talking to Ewan's father there only the last day or two, and we'd be good friends. I was actually his best man, and he would have said to me, that those awards are lovely, but Ewan would be the first to say that award would not have come without the input of his teammates. And I just thought that for a guy of 16 years of age, that the level of maturity he showed in that comment off the field, he's showing that maturity the same way as he shows it on the field. But it's a great award. I'm not, to be honest, I'm not sure that I agree with those awards at that level, because it is a team game, and I don't think particularly that Tipperary team, because they were such a team. And there was no I in that team, they were really a tremendous group, and I'm not sure that it's the wisest of awards to be given out at minor level, but at the same time you take it, wouldn't you? Congrats to you. Yeah.
And Noel, did early doors, would you have seen you and then early doors and realize, this lad can hurl, long before he came, within the public consciousness?
Yeah, sure. Would have been watching him all the way up along with Douglas Og, and he had everything. He had all the skills from a very young age, but that doesn't necessarily transfer, Shane, as you move up through the years, and it may not either. Still, we've seen plenty of minors who have been tremendous minors, and they just don't progress. But I just think Ewan is he's different gravy. There's a kind of a real maturity there for one thing, but there's a real determination there as well. And like his dad, Pat, would have been a tremendous sticksman as well, played with Sarsis for a number of years at senior level and all the way up along with us in school, and a really, really good sticksman. And his mum Colette is a very keen sports person too, very good hockey player and very good golfer and that. So I think it's, sport is kind of in you, and he'd also be an excellent footballer, really, really good footballer, and would have walked onto the county minor football team too, I've no doubt, but the talent was there, the DNA was there too, coming from both sets of parents and that, but ultimately it has to come from the player himself, and that's what I mean by Ewan's maturity and his single-mindedness. He really is a guy who works at what he does. He prepares right for all his games, for all his training sessions, and the results are there. So please God, it'll keep going for him.
Just before we revert back to previewing the hurling, just while we're on underage, just I suppose a shout out that the Aragon tournament is on this Saturday. I suppose always a prestigious one. It's in South Tipperary this week. So this year. It rotates around, and Tipp have three teams in this under 15 tournament. The A Cup is in Ballyluby, so I think Tipp are playing Cork, and the Tipp second team are also in Ballyluby, so I'm sure they'll probably get a good crowd there. I think Tipp's third team is in Claheen as well, so Ballyluby, Claheen, sure, they're nearly practically they're at the hip, so that's always a good, about 11 o'clock, 12:30, and all in the one day. There's matches in Monroe and matches in Killinall as well, so always a good tournament. So supposed to keep an eye maybe on the minors for you could have minors next year's minors feature, although to be young and maybe definitely 2 years down the line.
I wonder, did many teams have their preparations for this weekend affected by electric picnic at the weekend just gone? I'd say there were plenty of training sessions that were ruined over it, and this is a real factor. I mean, I'd say a lot of clubs are just that are hurling folks are like, thank God it wasn't on a hurling weekend, because then we really could have problems.
Yeah, I know. I wonder, did one or two of those walkovers in football because of that too? If you're wishy-washy, it's only football, I'm not coming back for that. Whereas if it was on a hurling weekend, I'd say you'd be told, get your arse back here, or you're not going. So
Oh, is it Kylie Minogue would have been the draw for you, Shane? Is it? Yeah.
For both Shanes.
She playing?
I wasn't saying which Shane. I was just throwing it out there.
No, like Thurles last year obviously got to the final, went to a replay, so on and so forth. What have you seen from this year? And I think we remember Conor Stapleton going to town the first day against Mullinahone. Not that Mullinahone were blown away; they were in the mix in the latter stage of that game. But like, how good are Thurles this year, and have they progressed in any area?
Yeah, the league didn't go well for them at all, Shane. But there would have been quite a few absentees throughout the county league, and so probably the first game that we would have been maybe gauging them on would have been the mid-semi-final against Loughmore Castellani, and as all the teams have found that have come up against Loughmore this year, they finished really strong. Loughmore finished really strong and won the game by, I think, just about 5 points in the end. Six was it? Yeah, would have finished of maybe scoring 6 of the last 8 scores to win it. And Sarsis had no answer to it, and that was very disappointing from a Thurles perspective, because they had been in a good position early on and they coughed it up. So then we came on to the championship games, county championship games, and they were impressive enough against Mullinahone up to, again, the last sort of 10 minutes when the game was possibly won, but Mullinahone started to run at them, and that posed a lot of problems for Thurles. They just weren't able to stem that tide. I mean, Mullinahone scored a goal which came all the way from the full back line, worked all the way up the field, right through the middle, and bang, in the back of the net. Now, the game was over, as I say, and it probably didn't make much of a difference apart from maybe for scoring difference or whatever. But that's a bit of a worry, In saying that, they have their 2 wins. They're moving closer to the business end of the championship. Paddy Creedon is back from his travels. Probably mightn't feature this weekend in the game against Rossgrey, but may feature in the game against Clonakilty in the Premier Intermediate game. So they might feel that one of the things maybe from last year. One of the things we said maybe from last year was that they might have peaked a little bit too soon, and by the time we came to the county final, there was and the replay that there was little enough left in the tank. This year, maybe the run has been timed a little bit differently. They haven't hit peak yet, but maybe they're getting closer to it as we get closer to the business end of the championship.
The other game then, Noel, Mullinahone against Moycarkey. Like Moycarkey, maybe it didn't go as well against Thurles as it did for Mullinahone in relative terms, we'll say. How do you see this game going?
Yeah, this is an intriguing game, Shane. We talk about all the games that mean so much. This one really means shootout, basically. Winner takes all here, and the other one would be in relegation. Mullinahone against Sarsfields, they ran up a decent score against it in a game where you probably say that the match was over kind of with 10 minutes to go. Sarsfields had gone maybe, 8, 9, 10 points in front, but they didn't give in. They kept chipping away, and they showed a lot of courage, and they showed a lot of initiative in what they were doing. They have decent forwards. I would worry a little bit for their backs maybe. In saying that, McCarkey, have they flattered to deceive this year? Some might accuse them of that. Others might say, well, this is a youngish team coming through and they're gaining experience all the time. They obviously, they got to the mid-final, and the double yellow card didn't help them coming into the closing stages of that. They were well in that game, and the second half, Loughmore just finished it out. I think this is a really, really big game for McCarkey, a really big game for them. Mullinahone have been there before. They probably know a little bit more about what it's like at this stage, but I really think this is a big, big, big game for McCarkey and for the development of this team that they have. Maybe it's mid-bias, but I think I'd be just giving the edge to McCarkey in this one.
Do Mullinahone have everyone back, Shane?
Yeah, I was looking at the dates of Mikey O'Shea and Conor Whelan were due to be, well, they couldn't play in round 2, but they could play from round 3 onwards. So I think that they're available whether they are home. And they would be a big shove on, particularly Mikey O'Shea. And they haven't scored poorly. They scored 126 against Rossgrey. They scored 119 against Thurles Sarsfield. So I just think maybe they've shown a little bit more consistency. Like Mike Harkey haven't done much wrong. Like they were very good for 45 minutes in the mid-final and fell away very, very good against Ross Gray. Probably they never got just maybe rabbits and headlights a small bit against Arsenal. Just had a bad start from playing catch up after that. Maybe, I suppose if you go on that, maybe this is the game where they're going to find their best form again. So yeah, I think Mike Harkey can afford a draw as well if it ends that way with score difference. So no, I'm edging towards Mullinahone, yeah, but it definitely, I suppose, of all the games this weekend is the complete feel of a knockout. It is a complete knockout game.
Yeah. So Group 3 then, Loughmore are top with 4, Holy Cross are second with 2, Nenagh also on 2, and Laura at currently bottom with 0. So the games this weekend, Loughmore against Nenagh, very tasty fixture there. Loughmore need just a point to top the group, and Nenagh need to win to have a chance to progress. Then Holy Cross against Laura. Laura looking to avoid a relegation berth, but I think that's going to be a tough. That's going to be a tough one with Holy Cross there, and also the scoring difference isn't particularly healthy at the moment. Noel, we'll start off with you because it's a tricky one for Shane being involved with Laura. Mm-hmm. But Laura against Holy Cross, how would you see that going?
Well, Shane, Holy Cross were very disappointed with their performance in the last game against Loughmore. They were very, very flat and didn't show any of the same kind of spirit and drive maybe that they showed in the game against Nenagh in the opening round. So I think there'll be a big bounce back there because they realise too that there's an opportunity for them to progress if they can get that win under their belts, which I think most people would probably expect them to do. There's no doubt that Laura will come out and really tear into me. In a sense, it's kind of like a free swing for Laura too, But I would be very surprised if we see anything other than a Holy Cross victory in that game. I think Holy Cross have kind of come to a point where a lot of the guys who won county under 17 and under 19 championships are now coming through and finding their way onto the team. And in fact, they're turning out to be the leaders of that team now. They're really driving it on. And you still have the likes of Cathal Barrett there and Brian O'Mara, two Tipperary senior panelists who are still right there in the mix for them as well. But I think it'd be very difficult for Laura to get anything from it, being perfectly honest.
And Shane, just your own thoughts on it. And
yeah, I suppose there's no point in saying that the Nenagh result and performance it wasn't good. But in fairness, I think our reaction in training the last 4 sessions has been really, really good, and I'd be optimistic that we're going to produce something. We'll produce our best performance, maybe something close to what we brought against Loughmore. I thought that night we hurled well enough for long spells, and I still think that this final scoreline was a bit flattering, but just was Loughmore tending to finish very, very strongly in all the matches. I suppose, looking at Holy Cross, I thought that, they didn't look like they had the same edge about them against Nenagh. Maybe there was after the Nenagh win, they probably thought, maybe there was a mentality shift there, maybe they've just been grounded a small bit, as Noel says, and maybe that they'll probably come fully focused for this one. It's a massive opportunity there, because look, if they win, they have a great shot of making the knockout stages, even if Nenagh win. And I think the Nenagh Loughmore game for me is probably the game of the weekend, because I think just because of the fact that Nenagh have to win, they would probably be assuming that Holy Cross will get the win, so Nenagh have got to go out and win. And I still think we're all seeing Nenagh on their day they can beat anyone, but when they're not they're off it slightly, they're vulnerable. I think it's they've really got to go for it against Loughmore. And sure, you've seen Holy Cross or Loughmore against everyone so far this year. They're so composed, so calm, so assured. They play the game at their own pace. They know what they're about. I think for me, the interesting thing for me for Nenagh is how direct they were against us. Against Holy Cross, I thought they were overplayed the ball a bit. Definitely against us, they changed their MO, and it'd be interesting to see whether they do that again against Loughmore. But if there is one vulnerability, I think with Loughmore, it is the direct ball inside, and I didn't think Holy Cross maybe attacked that enough in the last game either.
Like, how impressed have you been with Loughmore, Noel?
I've been very impressed with him, Shane. I'll be honest with you, I've been a little bit surprised by how good they've been. And maybe the change in management there has kind of freshened things up a lot with Eamon Kelly and Aidan Stapleton going in there. And, anytime there's a change in management, it can go both ways. It can either really deflate a team if it's not going well, but when it's going well, it really gives a team a lift. And I've seen that lift in Loughmore. I think they're getting a really, really good run out of this team, and they've been very impressive. They were finishing their games very strong, as we've said already. But it's this ability to just create scores and create chances. And I think in the Holy Cross game, John McGrath was fouled for 8 scores himself personally. And he has this ability to win frees. We talk about Dan McCormack and his ability to win that free all the time in the tackle, but John McGrath has that ability too. And of course, the minute he puts the ball down, it's a score. So that's something I think that Nenagh will have to be wary of. That Loughmore have that capacity to create frees and then take those scoring chances. They've been really good. They've been energetic throughout the field. They've used the ball very, very well, and they've also played in a variety of different styles. They're able to play it out from the back if they need to. They've no fear of doing that, and if they need to go direct, they can do that too. We saw that against Holy Cross as well. I think they played both styles at different sections of the game. So maybe there is a bit of a vulnerability to them in the full back line, people might think, but they have Brian McGrath sweeping in front there all the time, and they're a very, very hard team to break down.
Shane, just in terms of what worked for Nenagh against Laura, can you see the same approach working against Loughmore?
I can, because I think they have depth too. Like they have Tommy Heffernan came back the last day, look sharp enough. Keane Hennessy in the forward line, like they have. Conor McCarthy got 45 minutes into his legs, so I think Conor's physicality in that defence will be huge, and the way Loughmore trying to play, I'd say there's a chance that Barry Heffernan will probably be the +1 for Nenagh, and he's a very, very good distributor, and he has such power in his shoulders. He can deliver an 80-90 yard ball, so it'll be interesting to see if Loughmore decide, okay, we'll go man for man, and then maybe try and reduce Barry Heffernan's ability to be the lead distributor of the ball. I suppose the thing for me with Nenagh is Nenagh's 2 wins this year have been against Laura, but they've lost in their games against Holy Cross and Toom. They've been beaten against teams probably. Look, there's no doubt they're more experienced, maybe have been around the block longer than we have. So, Jake Morris he scored 6-10 or 6-11 against us in 2 matches. I don't think he's got a goal in either of the matches against other teams. If he gets one-on-one ball, or if he can get one-on-one ball, will he be able to take on the Loughmore inside backs like he was able to do against us? That'll be key for. But it's not just him. Ben West's return against us was big. Philip Hickey was back. Fitness was back as well. So, but Nenagh's, it was a 2021. Nenagh lost pretty well to Loughmore in the county semi-final. Look, everything points to that Loughmore will find a way to win. But I do think Nenagh have the potential to beat them. There's no doubt about it. But everything says that Loughmore will find a way to get the result they need.
At some stage, Noel, at some stage, this Nenagh team is going to put a full season together.
Yeah, you would like to think so, Shane. We've been waiting for a while now, but when Nenagh are on song, they're a fantastic team to watch as well. Never mind just to see them achieve what they can achieve. But they've been consistently inconsistent. That has been their big problem. Putting a couple of decent games back to back has been a big problem for them. And until such time as they find that consistency, I'm afraid you're going to see results like the one against Holy Cross, which was probably unexpected. And then matched by the performance against Lara, where they put up such a score. So they need to find that consistency, and I think that's what Johnny Kelly and Michael Cleary would be really looking for, to try and get on a run where they're putting decent games back to back. But they have to win on Sunday. If they don't, or at the weekend, if they don't, that's it for the year,
Okay, so that's the senior championship this weekend. The Premier Intermediate, then we'll just go through them group by group. So Group 1, Carrickswan are top on 4, Upperchurch and Ballina, they're on 2 points apiece, and then Silvermines are at the bottom. So Ballina against Upperchurch Drumban this weekend. Everything to play for, Shane.
Yeah, the Swan have the Group 1, Silvermines are in relegation, so yeah, it's a straight shootout between the Church and Ballina. Church have a preliminary quarter final to back up on, but I suppose maybe with a bit of senior football, I'm sure that they wouldn't want to use that. They won't want the extra game. Look, a lot will depend on Ballina's injuries. Like they didn't have Stephen O'Brien or Owen Power or Charlie King against Carrickswan, and they were still competitive for a lot of that game. Like I think if for Ballina to win, I think they will need to be at full strength. But like you have to, I said it's a big game for Upperchurch because I think they've been doing well without hitting their peak, and I think that at some stage they'd like to. Although the mid-final win over Sarsfields is looking better by the game because how good Sarsfields have been in the county so far. But like, I'm sure Liam Dunphy and the boys would love to see Upperchurch maybe being a finding another level that they did against Silvermines.
Okay, and yourself, Noel?
Yeah, sure. I suppose most people would have been tipping Upchurch to come back up almost straight away, but it doesn't work that way. And they've found that that has been the case, that there are plenty of other teams who want to get back up as well. But I still think that if Upchurch are playing to their potential, they're very, very hard to beat in this division. Ballina, as Shane saying, there are a couple of injuries that might come against them. I'd expect Upchurch to win that, I think.
Okay, then second group, Erogan and Carty Donahill, they're top with 4. Gurtnahoe, Glengula and Cashel Kincormacs are on 4 apiece. Mine Temple Toohey then don't have a point just yet. So Cashel against Erogan and Carty this weekend, Shane, and Gurtnahoe against Mine Temple Toohey. And hey, will Shane Long be promoted up to the first team for Gurtnahoe Glengula?
I don't know. I think that story might have been debunked about whether he played for their junior Bs or not. Yeah, I had a feeling once I saw him playing in that cancer game that there'd be maybe 1 or 2 fielders put out in Gurtnahoe would he be back, but I don't think that's the case. The Cashel one for me very finely poised was they played twice in the West. Both teams won a game each, with Cashel winning the final in extra time, I think. So Anna Carty even impressed me, and I think the longer they stay in this championship, the more dangerous they're going to get. Like they've loads of experience, and they're probably one of the more exciting young players in Dara Kelly. They've beaten Mine Temple Toohey. They edged through Gurtnahoe the last day by a point, last minute goal, so like they're able to go to the end. Yeah, I fancy maybe Anna Carty just to grind that one out, and that would. But Cashel do have the preliminary quarter final in the back pocket too, but like they won't want to use it either. I think Gurtnahoe they're back to where they were in 2022. I think they'll beat Mine Temple Toohey, but definitely Mine are playing better than they did last year. But I think they're just unlucky to find themselves in a very difficult group.
Yeah, Noel, Cashel and Erogan and Carty must be sick of the sight of each other.
They have to be, yeah. They meet each other very often, all right. Like Cashel have a lot of potential in their team as well, and in some ways it has taken them a long time to kind of gel, particularly with the guys that have come into their side. I've seen them in games where you think they're going to totally dominate, and then they don't, and you ask yourself why. So that you just kind of would feel that if Cashel can get themselves into a situation where there's a level of consistency there, a little bit like we spoke about Nenagh, that consistency is a big thing in any team. If you can get a team playing consistently well, you're going to be onto something. Erogue, they're a very difficult team to beat always. They went down very hard, fought very hard before going down in that, and I think they'll come through that one. in the other game, Gortnahu and mine, Dinny Ferncombe is training the Gortnahu team there, and he's gotten a nice bit out of them now. They're coming nicely. Mine have no win yet in the county championship, and I think they're going to find it difficult at the weekend. Again, it's a local derby as well, so there's a lot to play for there. But I think if I'm right, if mine beat Gortnahu, they'll be on equal points, I think. So there's plenty to play for in that game, you know.
Group 3 then, Thurles Sarsfield will be their top with 2 wins from 2. Borlahan, Douala and Clonakilty, they have 2 points apiece, and Newport are bottom. So Borlahan against Newport this weekend, plenty to play for there, and then Clonakilty are also against Thurles, Shane.
Yeah, I think it's a game where probably Clonakilty will be assuming Borlahan will beat Newport, so Clonakilty know they have to beat Sarsfields. And if Noel is right that Paddy Creedon could make an appearance with the Premier Intermediate team, Jesus, you're saying, God Almighty, could he hold him out? Because I don't think Clonakilty would the bet Sarsfields last year in the mid championship, and I think under they're a very, very good side. If Keane O'Dwyer, I'd be surprised he'll probably get a lot of. He probably will get the Michael Carroll man marking treatment, I'd say, this weekend. He won't be let score 116 or 17 from play like he did against Newport. Look, I suppose all the pressures on Clonakilty here to get the result, but I think we saw firsthand with Dora last year. Like just the depth in winning Thurles Sarsfields is ridiculous. And they have players playing in the Premier Intermediate team that will walk onto most senior teams, and something tells me this will be a good double header. I think this is on before Borris and Drom in Holy Cross on Saturday, so it'll be a tasty double header. If Paddy Creedon appears, I'm edging towards Sarsfields.
Would you
for Borland, and I think they're young and they're something Newport might fight on their backs here to maybe try and stay up, and if they do get the win, they might escape relegation. But Borland's form is probably better at the moment.
Yeah, Noel, would you go with or against most of that?
Yeah, I suppose the only thing I'd say on the Clonakilty Sarsfields game is that Clonakilty team have always given this Sarsfields team a difficult time of it. They've beaten them on a number of occasions. Sarsfields always find it very hard to play against them for whatever reason. The way some teams you just have that thing against, they just always seem to find it hard to beat them. So that's a big game at the weekend, right? Sarsfields are probably true, but it's still a big game. I think that there will be a lot of interest in that game, not just because it's the opener, it's the curtain raiser of that very attractive double header too. But I think there will be interest in the game to see how both teams are shaping up. In the other game, then Newport are struggling. It's difficult to see them getting anything from it. Borland have shown a bit of form coming up last year too. Like it was a big thing for them. So I think they'll probably win that game against Newport.
Yeah, okay, then Group 4, St. Mary's are top with 4 points. Burgess and Killinall, they're both on 2, and Sean Tracy's are on 0. So Burgess against Sean Tracy's this weekend, Shane, and Killinall against St. Mary's.
Yeah, Friday night, first game of the weekend. Yes, Burgess and Sean Tracy's. Look, on form, you'd say Burgess, but they're down. Well, they said to be down Johnny Mulqueen. He was sent off against St. Mary's, and he's their best defender by a long way, and he's a great focal point in that defence. He'll be a loss. Well, I think they'll probably just have enough scoring to get through Sean Tracy's. And look, then you have Killinall and St. Mary's, a real old school South battle. Killinall routed Mary's in the South a couple of months ago, but Mary's have found a bit of form. But look, even since St. Mary's have come up to this level, Killinall have always had their measure. Whatever it is about. Something strange about Killinall, they have their issues with some clubs. With St. Mary's are one they always seem to have an answer for, and I think that the fact that maybe the gun is to their head and they have to win, I think they'll beat Mary's, and it could end up in a three-way scoring battle, a three-way tie in terms of score difference between Burgess, Killinall, and Mary's. And maybe this is the type of game where, particularly Seamus Kennedy's be missing could be a bit of a loss, particularly you're playing a divisional rival who have the Indian sign over St. Mary's, and It's a nice little interesting message there. But yeah, I fancy Killinall and Burgess to get the win, and maybe the group to go down to score a difference between the three.
Yeah, that message, River Power, saying Killinall love playing the soft townies, Noel. What about that?
Is there any such thing as a soft townie? Is there? I don't know. Yeah, look, I'd be with Shane on those. I think I would see Killinall overcoming St. Mary's. I think as championships progress, the loss of Talisman really impacts, and Seamus Kennedy's loss to St. Mary's is huge. And I know you were asking earlier on with Anthony about the football and commercials, and his loss to commercials. That will tell as well later on in the football championship too, because we all know what Seamus Kennedy has done for Tipperary, but what he has done for St. Mary's and for Clonmel Commercials has been huge.
We heard from Anthony there that Jason Lonergan came back for the footballers last week, and like he was for the hurlers, he's a very, very good workman-like player around the middle of the field, always good for 2 or 3 points. So that'll add to them as well if he is around for the long term.
It will, and he's a player with great energy around the field, and well able to take a score. So that would be a plus to St. Mary's. But is it going to be in time? It won't be time probably for the Killinall game. He may make an appearance, but he mightn't have had the kind of preparation that you would need for that. I would see Killinall coming through there.
Okay. Well, we'll go through the intermediate as well. Maybe we'll just do it a little quicker. I alternate between groups here. Shane, I'll give you Group 1. Golden Kilfeacle, Clonalty, Rossmore, Ballybacon Grange and Kappa White are the teams there. So Ballybacon are against Golden Kilfeacle and Kappa White against Clonalty.
Yeah, I think Golden probably will be fancy to get the third win there and stay on their winning course. I suppose the big one for me, probably disappointing for me so far has been Kappa White. They would have been surprised to lose to Ballybacon, and now they come up against Clonalty, their old traditional rivals, not Clonalty's first team, their second team. And I'd say Clonalty would love nothing than to say our second team can beat Kappa's first team and maybe put you in relegation. So be interested to see whether Kappa are inspired or maybe feel under pressure playing Clonalty's second team. That's give a slight nudge to Kappa. Wouldn't be surprised if Clonalty pile on maybe a bit more pressure on Kappa White.
Yeah, in Group 2, Ballingarry are top with 4, Skeheenarinky are bottom with 0. So their match is a dead rubber, while Borris Kane against Kilsheal and Kilcash, Everton's to play for their Noel, it's a straight shootout.
It is, yeah, and straight shootouts are the way to have them, winner takes all, more or less, as you say, the first game is a dead rubber with Ballingarry being true, so that's the game of the round in that, really, I would say, Shane,
Okay. Group 3 then, Shannon Rovers, they're top with 4, Portrue have 3, Drom and Inch, their second team have 1, Arvale have 0. So Arvale against Drom in a relegation shootout, Portrue against Shannon Rovers to see who finishes top, Shane.
Yeah, Drom can still qualify if they get a big win and maybe Portrue lose to Shannon Rovers. But I just do think the fact that with the Rovers already qualified, even though they're not guaranteed top spot, I do think maybe Portrue's need is slightly greater. AJ Willis being back from America is a big plus to them. This would have been a great traditional rivalry in the 80s at intermediate level, and I suppose since Portrue got promoted in the early 90s, they haven't met at all. So I'm sure there'll be a lot of good war stories between some of the veterans on the bank and Nenagh on Sunday of lads that had great old battles over the years. So I think maybe the fact that Portrue's need is greater, they'll might get the win here.
Yeah,
but Shannon Rovers is great. Good to see them having a good campaign now that they had a couple of rotten groups the last couple of years and ended up in relegation. That definitely made and coming back from the 8-goal beating they took off Moneygall in the North semi-final, they responded very well to that.
Yeah, and speaking of Moneygall, they're top of Group 4 with 4 points from 2 games. Knockavilla Kickham's are second. They have 2 points. Also on 2 are Carrickdavins and Upperchurch Strumban. Their second team, they're bottom with 0 points. But Moneygall have been very impressive, Noel, and they'll be expected to beat Upperchurch here. But Carrickdavins against Knockavilla, that's the one where the real action is happening.
Yeah, that's the game, isn't it? Davins and Knockavilla. There wouldn't be an awful lot of rivalry between them either. I'd imagine they haven't played against each other too often, but that'll certainly be a game. Davins, Davins have plenty of talent in their side, and they have always had, down through the years. They haven't had the results maybe to match their potential, but I think they'll fancy themselves there now. Knockavilla have had their trials over the last number of years and things haven't gone their way a lot of time. But they're a very proud club. They're a club that will come out with all guns blazing. You can be sure of that. So that's a right game now. That's a right good game in that group.
And just the final thing before we finish up, the Camogie Championship is thrown in this weekend. Drom for the 6th in a row, Shane, what do you think?
They have the potential to, but I think that the gap is closing. Like they won the 5th last year, right? I think Clonolty are getting stronger. Thurles Sarsfields are getting stronger. Borris Lee, I do think. Maybe they should get to the knockout stages. It'll be interesting to see. I see Pat Ryan, who managed them to 4 those county titles, gone in Silver Mines. So like the Silver Mines have some nice young players coming through. Look, I suppose off the back of a very, very good year for Tipperary Camogie, I'm sure we'll be set for a very, very good championship. Drom the team to beat, but I think definitely the gap has been closed in the last few years.
Yeah. Your own thoughts then, Noel, just before we finish up?
Yeah, I was actually in Drom last night, and the Camogie team were training there. They don't look to have lost any of their zest for it anyway, that's for sure. They're in decent shape, and they're going to be hard to beat. Champions always fall hard, and particularly, when you have a team going for 6 like that, it's vast experience throughout the team. But they've also introduced new blood as well, which is, when you go back and you think of the teams that have dominated championships, and you talk about the Kenny senior team and the Limerick senior team now, and you go back to the likes of the Saracens teams back in the 60s and all that, and even throughout the 2000s. The key to it all has been to introduce fresh blood and keep the thing moving. And Drom have done that with their Camogie team. So I think they're going to be difficult to beat, even though I'd agree with Shane that the gap is probably closing a little bit as well on them. So I think we're set for a really good senior Camogie championship, and it'll be brilliant because we've had a great year at club level. And when you have a good club championship, it drives on your county team as well,
Absolutely. Look, well, that's it for the show this week. The Nenagh Guardian is available now. Thanks very much to the two men and to Anthony Shelley before that. See you again next week. Thanks a lot, lads.
Okay, take care, lads.